The USA has thousands of transit bus routes all across the country. So does Canada. But despite the fact that these two countries share a border over 5,500 miles long, there is only one transit bus route that runs between Canada and the United States. Next week, that number will be 0. Today, we are riding the Tunnel Bus, the service between Detroit and Windsor, which is about to meet its end.
Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Trains Are Awesome video. I'm Tom and I'm joined by my friend Josh. And today we are in Detroit, Michigan. But we're about to leave Detroit. Behind us you see a bunch of buildings. Those are actually on the other side of the river in a place called South Detroit.
Tom?
What?
That's not South Detroit, that's Canada.
Oh, can we still go there?
Yeah.
Yes, today we are taking the Tunnel Bus, operated by Transit Windsor. See, Detroit and Windsor, Ontario are connected by a tunnel running underneath the river, and the Tunnel Bus uses this tunnel to serve both cities. Or both countries, I should say. Since the ending of the bridge bus in Sault Ste. Marie during the pandemic, the Tunnel Bus has become the only transit bus to cross a US border. Now, you can take coach buses or Amtrak to get into Canada, but those require reservations. The Tunnel Bus is the only bus that you can just show up, pay your fare, and go to a different country, at least on this continent.
So I think my favorite part of this bus is the fact that it costs $10 in US dollars or Canadian dollars. So I'm paying with American cash.
And I'm paying with Canadian currency.
There it is, Tunnel Bus.
The fare machine had a little bit of trouble taking my crinkled $5 bills, but the driver was very patient and friendly with me. This bus is a 2022 Nova Bus LFS.
This is awesome.
The Tunnel Bus runs every hour, and it makes several stops around downtown Detroit. We got on the last stop before the tunnel entrance. It was around 11:20 in the morning, and I was a little surprised that we were the only people on the bus. But then we stopped in front of the tunnel entrance, and like 10 people got on. Perks of getting on before anybody else, though, is that I got to pick my favorite seat. Lots of legroom. And once everybody was on board and settled, we continued driving and entered the Detroit-Windsor Tunnel.
So we're heading into the tunnel. First time in Canada?
Oh yeah, never been in my life. Totally have no affiliation.
The tunnel's construction started in 1928 and it opened in 1930. It's just under a mile long, about 1.5 kilometers. It is the third underwater car tunnel in the United States, after the Holland Tunnel in New York and a tunnel in Oakland. It is also the third international tunnel in the world, and it's the first one for cars. Two older international tunnels also connect Michigan and Ontario, but were built for trains. The Tunnel Bus has been around basically as long as the tunnel has. It first ran in 1930. Originally, it was an American bus operated by the Tunnel Company, which ran around Detroit but only served the tunnel entrance in Windsor. In 1982, the city of Windsor took over the service, and it's Transit Windsor who operates this bus to this day. You'll notice you've crossed the border when you see these two flags on the wall. A few minutes later, and we emerge to the surface. The bus parks in a sealed parking lot. The doors open, and we walk into the office of the Canadian Border Patrol. I told the driver, "I'll see you in a little bit." "I'll be here," he responded with a grin.
Good morning. Good morning. Where are you coming from today? Washington, D.C. And what brings you to Windsor? So we're just traveling from Detroit. We wanted to ride the tunnel bus before it gets canceled. Wait, you came from D.C. to Canada to ride a bus? Was it everything you hoped it would be? Yeah, it was pretty great. We might get some lunch here too. Oh, you definitely need to get some poutine. Actually, if you look over there just down the street, there's a brand new place that opened. You should try it out. Have a great day. Dear viewers, welcome to Canada. Specifically, we are in Windsor, Ontario, and I have to say, I've crossed international borders quite a few times in my lifetime, but never have I come across an agent as friendly and kind as the man we just had. And then We asked him for food
And
recommendations.
he gave us a bunch of great lunch spots, so we'll check some of those out, see what there is to do here in Windsor, and head back in a couple of hours.
Yeah, he literally just gave us instructions on how to get the best poutine. So, what a great guy.
After leaving border control, the bus takes a quite circuitous route to get to the International Transit Center in downtown Windsor, but it was a good way to get a first impression of this city. Since the bus runs every hour, we're planning to be here for about 2 hours, which gives us plenty of time to get some food, walk around, and tell you about the future of the tunnel bus. But don't let me get ahead of myself here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, welcome to downtown Windsor.
So we just checked out the transit center, and what happened was we wanted to buy fare cards, just as a souvenir. I'm sure many of you do the same. At first, the lady behind the window was a little bit confused, but when we explained that we came from DC, from Maryland, to ride the tunnel bus, all the staff members came to our window. They're like, really? That's so cool. You guys are awesome. And then they gave us these pins. And when I said thank you for their kindness, the lady blew me a kiss. It was a sweet old lady. So I'm loving Windsor, which I don't think I'd ever say
Nobody
that.
would expect that out of Windsor, but listen, it's Canadian hospitality, eh?
Now, the transit center has a payphone right by the tunnel bus stop, but one thing I thought was funny was that Transit Windsor is changing their schedules on August 31st, more on that in a little bit, but I think the original posters accidentally had the wrong date on them because there's these 31 stickers everywhere. Now, the tunnel bus runs every hour, which gave us plenty of time to walk around Windsor.
I don't really know if there's any bus station closer to a water park than this one.
Windsor, Ontario has a population of about 230,000 and is situated at the very end of the Windsor to Quebec City corridor, which has over 51% of Canada's population living in it. Up to a quarter of all goods traded between the US and Canada pass over the nearby Ambassador Bridge. Now, Windsor, interestingly enough, also has a lot of car factories, just like Detroit across the river, but the city is perhaps better known for a different industry.
When in Windsor.
We found this place called Fry Frenzies where the food was really good, and then we found out that the place had only opened the week prior. They asked us to leave a Google review, which of course we did, but I think maybe this video will help a little bit too. Definitely try their poutine. I got the chicken and it was delicious.
So we're walking along the Windsor waterfront. We just had some delicious poutine.
It was absolutely amazing. I know it's not traditional poutine, so sorry to the Quebecois viewers out there, but it was really good. It's the best we can do here in Windsor.
And the restaurant was brand new. They told us it opened 10 days ago. Do you want to know a fun fact about me?
What's the fun fact about you, Tom?
I've been to Canada several times. I have never flown in or out of Canada.
Really?
Yes, I've driven, I've taken Amtrak, and now the tunnel bus.
Go figure. You're going to have to change that at some point.
Maybe.
Going up to Montreal. We'll fix that.
Let's do it.
So the section of Windsor right along the river is definitely one of the best parts. It used to be all rail yards here, but now it's trails, bike lanes, playgrounds, and monuments to history. This is the very best place to get a view of the Detroit skyline just across the river.
You know, we were just there.
Yeah?
Now we're here.
Crazy.
You can even see the people mover running. But that's not the only train we saw on the Riverwalk.
Ooh, what's that?
Train.
This steam locomotive, number 5588, was called the Spirit of Windsor and was in service around southern Ontario. It has been preserved and sits on a spot right on the Riverwalk, with its back towards Detroit. Now, all this talk about trains, you might forget that we were here to ride a bus, but let's talk about that bus.
But if you want to ride the tunnel bus, you better hurry because it's almost gone. Yes, the tunnel bus is almost gone. So we're filming this on August 20th. By August 31st, the tunnel bus will be no more. The mayor of Windsor is canceling the service. Why?
So in 2022, the Canadian government passed a law that mandated 10 days of paid sick leave for all federally regulated employees. Why does that matter here? Well, because the bus crosses the border, all of the employees at Transit Windsor are considered federally regulated. So while the tunnel bus had traditionally broken even, this would add $1.4 million of subsidies that the city of Windsor would have to pay. And so by not running an international route, these employees are no longer federally regulated and they don't have that expense. Now the Windsor City Council disagreed with this move, and so they decided to raise the fare of the tunnel bus to $20 instead of the current $10, which would make it one of the most expensive transit buses anywhere. But the mayor vetoed that. But did he do that because he cared about how much people would have to pay to ride? No, here's what he had to say about that.
There's plenty of ways to get to and from the city of Detroit. The tunnel bus is certainly not the only way.
No, here's his reason for canceling the bus.
Tariff magic came in, and I said, in good conscience, I cannot have Windsor taxpayers subsidize the delivery of this service over to the city of Detroit, where all of the money, we're basically an economic engine for the city of Detroit, taking 40,000 people over every year to Detroit to spend their money. But I think it's incumbent upon us to reconcile what we're spending to bring people to another country to spend their money.
But Mr. Mayor, that's because we hadn't yet made our Google review of Fry Frenzies. Now people should be pouring in. No, but really, my favorite part of democracy is when powerful people make decisions that everybody else doesn't want. Not that I would know anything about that living in DC. I really hate this timeline. I hate it. Politically, I understand that it's difficult for a Canadian politician to make a decision that seemingly benefits the US economy. I think he's a little misguided here. While yes, people take this bus to visit events in Detroit, there are also thousands of people who live in Windsor, work in Detroit, and then spend their money back home. And some of these people do use the bus. The bus is great for people who cannot drive for whatever reason. And yes, the Gordie Howe Bridge is opening later this year with a cyclist and pedestrian path, but that bridge is several miles to the south of both downtowns. Do I have to remind people what Michigan winters are like? The bus serves a purpose. Now, I fully appreciate the complexity of the economic situation between the US and Canada. It's pretty baffling stuff to watch. But at the end of the day, the mayor also has to make local decisions that benefit his community. Personally, I just don't think this is the right decision.
Now you have a week left to ride this thing, but if you can't make that, there is still a way to take a transit bus from Windsor to Detroit for the next few months, because the special events service will run until December of 2025. The special events service only runs when there are like games or concerts in Detroit. You have to reserve it in advance, and that service is going to be running until December, like I said. It's just the regular hourly transit route that is being cut next week.
Well, to process that sad news, we decided we needed a sweet treat. Tim Hortons it is.
So the Timbits are secured. You know, it is so weird to walk through a city and see skyscrapers and realize that they're not even just in a different city, but in a different country.
What a world.
Now we gotta go back to the International Transit Center because the bus leaves in 7 minutes.
Will we make it? Find out next.
We'll make it.
Now, I'd heard that this bus can rack up some delays, but I wasn't really expecting it to be a half hour late.
So since we're in Canada, are these just geese then?
Finally, at 2:30, the tunnel bus showed up.
So we're on the bus. It's about a half hour late. We paid with our card, and we're about to depart.
I noticed that as friendly as the Transit Windsor staff was to us, several of them were quite nasty to each other. Our driver yelled at the driver he was replacing for being late, and that was the second shouting match that we witnessed between employees. I don't know, maybe I'd be irritable too if my city's international transit connection was being cut because of my sick leave policy. On the bus back, we were discussing how unfortunate it was that almost a century of transit history was coming to an end, and that we hoped that perhaps Detroit would provide an alternative. But we were also preparing to re-enter the United States. So the actual tunnel crossing part isn't really that long, just a few minutes. Oh, there go the flags again. But once we're back in the United States, we pull into the lot for the Customs and Border Patrol, and there was a Flixbus next to us, so we had to wait with the door shut until all the Flixbus passengers had been processed and were back on the bus. That way nobody from our bus could get onto that bus.
Hello, where do you live? I live in Washington, D.C. Why do you go to Canada today? Oh, we took the tunnel bus because we knew it was being canceled soon. Like riding buses? Yeah, I'm a transit enthusiast. I like doing that sort of thing. Well, then you better get back on your bus. Thank you. Have a good day. Awkward angle and celebratory Timbits because we flew through border control. It was super easy. I actually think they asked you more questions than me.
They seriously did, which, go figure.
Nexus card versus green card.
Which one's better?
With everybody back on board, we backed out of the parking spot and then emerged to the surface next to the Old Mariners Church.
Guys, we're doing it. We're making a Michigan left.
For those of you who don't know, at a lot of busy roads in Michigan, you're not allowed to make a left turn at the light. Instead, you have to use a special U-turn, go onto the opposite direction, and then make a right turn, and this is known as the Michigan left. Now, here in Detroit, the bus driver seemingly ignored our stop request button, so we ended up having to be like, hey, next stop please, and then he opened the door for us. Kind of disappointing that the trip back to the US was less smooth than the trip to Canada, what with the delays and then this.
So that was the tunnel bus.
Ça, c'était le bus de tunnel.
Going to Canada was definitely easier than going back to the States.
Aller au Canada, c'était beaucoup plus simple qu'aller aux États-Unis.
But overall, I think it's great, and I'm very sad that it's going away.
Mais je pense que c'est un très bon service et je suis très triste que ça va disparaître et plus être là encore.
If you want to ride the tunnel bus, you have until August 30th for the regular service.
Si vous voulez prendre l'autobus, vous avez jusqu'au 30 août pour le service régulier.
And until December for the special event service.
Et jusqu'au fin décembre pour les services des événements spéciaux.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe.
Si vous aimez cette vidéo, s'il vous plaît, s'abonnez.
And we'll see you next time.
On va se voir la prochaine fois.